I welcome you to our series, and today we shall focus on be fruitful and multiply. From chapter 1 of the book of Genesis, verse 28a, and I quote, God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth and subdue it, unquote. In our earlier presentation, we looked at the first part, which is God blessed them. We wish to focus on the second part, which is be fruitful and multiply. I wish to begin by making two preliminary remarks. The first one is that before God gave the command to our first parents to be fruitful and multiply, Scripture says in the earlier verse that male and female, he created them. Then we have the blessing before the command, be fruitful and multiply. I wish to therefore draw your attention to the order that is taking place over here, or the order we have over here. That there is first and foremost the need for the male and female relationship. Then there is the need for the blessing before the command, be fruitful and multiply. So for those who wish to rather respond to the command, be fruitful and multiply before the blessing, let us be reminded of the biblical order, that there's a need for the blessing before be fruitful and multiply, which is procreation. Then the second point I wish to make is this. Looking at the text carefully, God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful and multiply. It is a command to the couple. It is not a command to every male and every female. It is a command to the couple. And it's important we acknowledge this truth. I wish to admit that this is hard truth. But like as earlier on indicated, we are looking at relationships, we're looking at marriage and family life from the perspective or from the lens of Scripture, not from our own lenses. Now, what do we exactly mean when we talk about be fruitful and multiply? The first time we come across these words is in chapter 1 of the book of Genesis, verse 22. As in a context where God had created the birds of the air and the fishes in the waters. And Scripture says God blessed them and said, be fruitful and multiply. So be fruitful and multiply is a call for procreation. And it's the same understanding we have when God says to our first parents, be fruitful and multiply. It is for them to procreate. With this in mind, I wish to make two submissions. The first one is that procreation is an essential part or component of marriage. Look at the text carefully, where God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it. It reveals the primary purpose of marriage, and that is procreation. That the only way that the earth will be filled is through procreation by the couple. But with this, two questions may arise. Can a couple decide that even though they live together as husband and wife, they wouldn't like to have children? Now, if they go by that, the question is, how will God fill the earth? Then the second question is this. Can a couple also say that because of the command, be fruitful and multiply, they can have as many children as possible? What about the education of the children? You remember that usually before the blessing of the marriage, the exchange of consent, the last question that is put to the couple is, would you accept children lovingly from God and bring them up according to the law of Christ and his church? It is a question to remind the couple about their responsibility. And it's not only having of children, which is procreation, but it's also the education of the children. The two go together. And it's important we take note of this. Procreation, a very important component of marriage. The second point is this. By this command, be fruitful and multiply. The man and the woman are raised to a high level of becoming co-creators. The power by which God brought man into being is what he shares with the couple. Reflecting on this honor of becoming co-creators, therefore, we discover the sacredness of sex. The man and the woman that God has blessed, through the sexual act, bring into being another creature. This is a wonderful mystery. Sex, therefore, has a divine dimension, and it is important it is appreciated. But how can a young man who, for instance, is into multiple sexual relationships be faithful to his future partner? Your guess is as good as mine. There is therefore the need for us to lay the foundation for a better tomorrow. And parents have the duty of educating their children to appreciate the sacredness of sex. Once we fail to talk about the sacredness of sex, the fight against infidelity in relationships will be in vain. Because as scripture says, foundations once destroyed, what can they just do? To conclude, the command to be fruitful and multiply should remind all of us about the need to appreciate the honor that God bestows upon couples of becoming co-creators. That with their cooperation with God and with one another, the plan for the earth sees the light of day. And that the sexual act through which this dream of God is realized must be held with respect and with dignity. God bless you.